All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to potentially a new series on this channel called Storytime. And this was requested by someone very important, mainly my girlfriend. And I figured that sounds like a really good idea. Not only will it help me practice my speech, it will also help me with my train of thought and help me practice a lot of things. Now, if you didn't read the description already, I apologize for the poor quality, and because my normal microphone that I use is malfunctioning, I can't figure out what is wrong with it, but it won't register. And I'm doing this from my laptop in my bedroom. So that's kind of why it's in the dark. And today's story is about a character of mine named Rusty and his wife, Alpha, and their two children. Hmm, I can't remember what the name was. I believe it was Jacob. Yeah, it was Jacob and Victoria, son and daughter. And we first find them eating breakfast in their kitchen, enjoying a nice breakfast of bacon, eggs, and toast. A nice classic breakfast. So, let's start off the story. Also, keep in mind, this story, I don't have it written down. I'm also using this as a sort of self improv, I guess. I don't know if it's an actual thing, but bear with me. This is my first time doing something like this, and it's a little complicated, but I'm pretty sure I can do it. Alright. Ryan's. Yeah, not Ryan. I flop between two characters, both Ryan and Rusty, whenever I do role playing, and I'm used to saying Ryan but not Rusty. Anyway, Rusty stood up from his chair and started taking everyone's plates to, to towards the sink and began washing everything. Meanwhile, the children were laughing and playing with each other at the dinner table. While the children and Rusty was minding their own business, Alpha was enjoying her coffee. Then, all of a sudden, Rusty glanced over at the children and said, with a happy tone in his voice, "Hey guys, guess what?" "What is it, Dad?" the children asked in response. "We're going on a trip later on today." "Really?" the kids responded. And Alpha gave a surprised look towards Rusty as she placed down her coffee cup. Yep, we sure are. And guess where we're going? Everyone was silent as they waited for him to respond. All right, since you guys don't want to guess, I'll say it anyway. We're going to the beach. Yay! The kid said with excitement as Alpha smiled. Rusty then started to laugh and finish up the dishes. Once he was done with the dishes, he started to put them away, followed by Alpha standing up and hugging him from behind. I forgot to mention, Alpha is much taller than Rusty. Rusty's about 4 feet tall, while Alpha is only 7 feet tall. So that's a fairly big gap. Oh, another thing. These characters are not human. One, Rusty is a fox, and Alpha is a dragon. So, yeah. And they're not the actual animal, they are an anthropomorphic version of these animals. And if you guys don't know what that is, that means they are the animal, but they have human characteristics. So they would be like a human, but with the animal's head and the fur and coat. Instead of having skin, they would have the outward appearance of the animal that they were, just having the body of a human. Anyway, back to the story. Alpha continued to hug Rusty from behind and then gave a gentle kiss on the cheek. This made Rusty very happy, which was made obvious by his smile and his tail wagging softly. He then turned around toward Alpha and pressed his lips gently against hers. Ew, the kids said in disgust as they watched their parents kiss each other. What do you mean, ew? Rusty asked the children. We're only kissing each other and showing affection. And the kids smiled and shook their heads as they wandered upstairs towards the bedroom to get ready for the beach. So, we're going to the beach, are we? Alpha asked Rusty. Yep, I figured that you and I needed a break from work, and the kids seemed rather bored at the home. So, I figured, since it's summer, we might as well go to the beach and enjoy it. Sounds great to me, Alpha said in response. So, after the children got their swimming clothes on and got all their beach toys together, Rusty and Alpha were just now finishing up getting their beach attire on. By this time, it was a little bit after 12 o'clock in the evening. So everyone made their way downstairs into the living room. Oh my god, you know what I forgot? Rusty said in a slightly panicked tone. What did you almost forget, dear? Alpha said in response. I almost forgot to pack us sandwiches and snacks. Alpha held a surprised and almost fearful look on her face as he heard she heard Rusty say these words, then responded with, "Yeah, we kinda need those unless we want the kids to eat us." This made Rusty laugh, and the kids replied with, along with some laughing from their end, "Yeah, let's eat mom and dad. Then we can have freedom and we can do whatever we want." Jacob said, "Hey, if we can do whatever we want, we could have ice cream for breakfast." Rusty started to panic and then shake his hands towards the two children, replying with, "No, no, 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 no. We do not need to have that happen. Trust me, you guys want us to be around." This made the children form a grumpy look on their face. "Oh my god, I just realized what the boy's name is. It's not Jacob, it's James." "Well, I guess I can fix it now." Alright, back to the story. Well, you guys go ahead and get the truck packed up, and I'll get everything edible into a basket. Alright? The three of them nodded as they started to get towels, shovels, buckets, and other beach toys for the truck and their trip towards the beach. The kids got all of the toys and shovels and everything. Meanwhile, Alpha got all the towels and sunscreen and bug spray for the beach. After some time went by, Rusty took all of these sandwiches, grapes, oranges, and other assorted fruits and vegetables and placed them into a cooler. Then Rusty paused and thought to himself, "You know, the beach seems like a pretty good place to go fishing, but don't think I want to go fishing there." He sat there and continued to think about this. As he was thinking, however, Alpha slowly walked into the room, trying to figure out what Rusty was standing there in the middle of the kitchen doing. "Honey, are you all right?" she asked in a gentle tone. Even though she spoke in a hushed tone, this still frightened Rusty and made him turn around rapidly. "Yeah, don't do that! You scared me half to death!" he said as he held his chest. "Oh, I'm sorry, dear," she said with a slight chuckle in her tone. It's all right, my love," Rusty said as he spun back around to put all of the ingredients and stuff into the basket. With one final kiss, the two made their way back into the living room to see the kids sitting on the couch with a huge grin upon their face. And as they sat there, Rusty smiled and looked towards them. "All right, kids, you guys ready to go to the beach?" "Yes, sir." Uh, James, dang. James said with an excited tone in his voice. Victoria was rather young, so she did not speak that much. All she did was nod happily. Victoria was about 5 years old, Jake, where James was only 8 years old. And sorry, I zoned out for a second, and then they went into the truck and began their drive towards the beach. The ride was rather quiet until Rusty turned on the radio, and it just so happened to be on his favorite song. The kids hated it when he sung, and Alpha thought it was adorable. So, just to mess with the children, he broke out into song and started to sing along with the song on the radio, making sure to sing it as much out of key and as loud as he could, just to make sure the kids weren't being annoyed. He didn't do this for the entirety of the song. He only did it for the first 10 seconds of it, and then he started to sing it in key and properly. Then everyone started to listen to him sing, which calmed down the vehicle. Then they eventually just sat and listened to the radio as they drove along towards the beach. Once at the beach, they all got out and started and then began to unpack everything from the truck. Then, once everything was unpacked from the truck, they looked out upon the open beach. Due to it being a weekday, not many people were there at the beach. However, there were there was a lot of trash and stuff on the beach. So, Rusty got a brilliant idea to keep the kids occupied after they got everything set up. He hap- he always kept a spare $5 bill in his wallet and told the kids, "Hey, whoever can pick up the most trash off the beach gets to have this $5." The Both of the children's eyes lit up as they looked upon the dollar. Then it didn't take long before they bolted for the nearest pile of trash and fought with each other to see who could pick up the most trash. Seeing their eager reaction, Alpha decided she laughed. Both Rusty and Alpha began to set up the umbrella and towels. And once everything was set up, Alpha took off her cover and sat out in the sun, along with a, her favorite book and sunglasses. Then, once she was comfortable, she began to read. This left Rusty having nothing to do except for either just twiddle his thumbs or just sit there in the sand because he had forgotten to bring his own book. And due to his phone on low battery, he was not able to do much. So, what he decided to do was take one of the kids' shovels and bucket and go over to a clear. One moment. All right, back to the story. Once we hmm, forgot where we were. Oh, right. Rusty then went up to a open patch of sand and began to dig a rather deep hole that left a large pile of sand behind him. Alpha glanced over towards him now and then, trying to see what he was doing, but she was unable to see what he was doing due to her book and him being so deep in the earth. After some time, he eventually stopped digging and started to work on the giant mound of sand. After 30 minutes or so, the children came back and said that the kids say, mm, they said that they had both were collecting each time that they spoke. One child had collected more than the other, and the amount just kept rising and rising. So Rusty said, "You know what? How about this? Since you both collected the same amount of trash, you both get this dollar, but you have to share it. So you can buy it, whatever you buy with it, you have to share it." This made Victoria very grumpy, which was made obvious by the facial expressions that she was giving off. James didn't really care that much, considering that he was used to sharing a lot of things with both Alpha and his little sister. So they sat on either side of Alpha and started to eat their sandwiches, with Alpha still reading her book. Ryan's uh, Ryan Rusty went over to his sand mound and started to shave off parts of the sand mound and pouring water on certain areas. After 45 minutes go by, the children are passed out asleep on either side of Alpha as as Alpha then looked over her book to see a large sand sculpture resembling her This made her jaw drop along with the book in her hands as she looked at the statue in amazement. "Oh my God, honey, did you make this?" she asked in a shocked tone. "Yep, I sure did. It helps when I have a great model to make things over." She then blushed as she got up. However, once she got up, the children fell onto their backs and woke up to see the large sculpture. The three of them walked over towards it and looked all around it to see the amount of detail that Rusty had put into it. And as they did this, Rusty just sat there and smiled as he was now proud of the creation that he made. Then, once, hang on, now that the four of them were standing up and towards close to the water, the two children ran towards the water and took both Alpha and Rusty by the hands and dragged them towards the water as well. Rust, Rusty tripped once he hit the water and then just started to float off. However, once he hit the water, he then rolled over and smiled. So he was just floating around in the water on his back, leaving the children running after him trying to stop him. And every time they would get close, Rusty would just gently paddle further in circles, leaving Alpha about knee deep in the water, just laughing as she watched her husband and children play around in the water. After lots of fun in the sun and the sand, the sun was starting to set and the children started to yawn. Once Rusty and Alpha realized this, they started to pack up everything and put it into the truck. This obviously made the children upset because they didn't want to leave the beach. To be all honest, I don't blame them. I love the beach, but the story is not about me, so let's continue. The children were very upset the fact that they had to leave the beach, but the more they said they didn't want to leave the beach, the more they yawned and rubbed their eyes. Man, I really need to stop saying that word. Every time I say it, I yawn. Anyway, once they were in their seats, Rusty started up the truck and made their way back home. Not even halfway through the trip, the children were passed out, and so was Alpha. Rusty would then, every now and then, glance over towards the love of his life and think to himself, "Man, am I lucky or what to find such a woman?" He smiled and chuckled to himself. His focus then went back to the road, and after a long and quiet ride, they made it back home with Rusty taking the children in one by one and putting them in their beds. Alpha was very known to be a heavy sleeper, so Rusty ended up having to pull her out of the truck and walk her into the house with her barely even awake. He then helped everyone get into their pajamas and sleepwear and practically doing their nightly routines for them and then setting them into the bed. And after Rusty was done helping everyone get into the bed, he got ready for bed himself and then got into the bed with the one he loved most. He let out a deep yawn and then cuddled up close to Alpha. This made both of them smile as they slowly drifted off to sleep. And that is the end of this story. I hope you guys liked it. And if you want to see more stories like this, well, hear them, just let me know. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.